Hey, everybody. Welcome to another OSINT Curious interview week. With this week, a very special guest. You can see his moniker, his handle is F Society. Well, I don't know. It takes a long way of your life to do that with the entire society, but you get the idea. His official name is Robert Baptiste. He also goes by the handle of Elliot Alderson. So, well, I'm a huge fan of his work. So a little bit fangirling here. Yay, he's on. So let me introduce our other OSINT Curious guest that we have. Well, it's not basically guest, it's our good friends and colleagues. Let me first call out Christina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Lecati, and I go by Christina Lecati on all social media, and I will pass it on to Laurent.
Yeah, let's start with Sector first, because I'm going to introduce our special guest.
Well, hi everyone, Sector 035 here, also a huge fan of Baptiste's work. So welcome, Laurent.
Thank you. So now it's my turn. So hi everyone, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Laurent, and you can find me also on social media under the handle of Laurent Bodo. And I have the huge honor to introduce this week's special interviewee, who is Robert Baptiste, a.k.a. Elliot Alderson. He is a French security researcher specialized in mobile app security, and he is also super passionate about OSINT, so we can't wait to hear his story. And as a French security researcher, he's found a lot of vulnerabilities in governmental mobile apps and websites, especially in France, India, and the US. And today, with his new company, Predicta Lab, he's also building OSINT tools to fight disinformation. So also something we're very keen on talking about today with him. So thank you so much for joining us, Baptiste. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you.
So let's just kick off with the first question. We usually ask these every interview. So tell us about about your story. Like, how did you get into the world of OSINT?
So my journey started with the Yellow Vest protest in France. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, something like this, we had a lot of protests in France. A lot of things happened in social media. We saw a lot of we saw a new trend of protesters used to film everything. So on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on other platforms, we saw a lot of videos, and sometimes we saw disinformation around that. By disinformation, I mean also misinformation. For example, some video were cut at the correct place to show only a cop beat or something like this. So I wanted to understand what was happening, and I wanted to understand if there were an influence from the outside. And in the press, especially in the French media, we saw a lot of people saying, okay, a US company say Russian is trying to influence the Yellow Vest protest all over Europe. And I was like, okay, this is just silly, because Yellow Vest protest is based on something. There is a real social thing behind this protest. And I mean, Russia trying to press on this seems normal, but this is not. They are not creating this protest. And the other thing was, I have the chance to discuss with a lot of people, especially in the US or outside Europe, and a lot of people on social media were like, okay, take care, don't go outside in the street, it's like war. I can see on social networks that this is a war, and it was not the war at all. I mean, sometimes in some protests you have some fight and some stuff like this, but in general it was quite okay. And I was like, oh no, this is fine in my city, everything is okay, don't worry. And I wanted to understand if someone was trying to influence the perception of the Yellow Vest protest to the outside. And what I did is I capture everything on the social network related to this protest, and I was trying to draw some relation graph between people and accounts in order to see the dynamics and to see who is talking to who, and this kind of thing. And this is quite funny because at the end it was not Russia at all. It was more a bunch of people with different interests and different trying to push their own propaganda. We had some Brexiter, we had some French nationalists, we had some East Europe guys too. So it was a mix of different people. So this is how I started in OSINT, and after that I continued to build some tools. I mean, like a lot of people in the OSINT world.
So this is very interesting, and this is what we have also seen with a bunch of people, including me, and also, I think also include most of my colleagues. It's that curiosity, that you observe something and you see something like doesn't look right, or you just want to explore it, and then you dive deeper into it and try to find answers or try to solve a problem. So that's very interesting, a common theme that occurs. And also you mentioned the collaboration with others on social media is also very interesting. So next question would be, like, how has your background helped you to do these things? Because some people, they don't have a background in any IT or anything, but they will also love to get started. So what would your advice be?
So as you said, I think it's super important to say that the initial start of your journey in general is to understand what is happening, and you see something and you don't think it's right, you think you can do better, you want to understand what is really happening. And this is super complicated with social networks right now, because most of the people think, okay, I will tweet something, I will post something on Facebook and it will disappear. I think most of the people think they have the same timeline than the others. And this is totally false. We don't have the same Facebook. We don't have the same Twitter experience. We all have a different experience, and people have to understand that. And I really wanted to understand how social networks were really, how everything was working. So this is how I started. And I mean, I was helped by a lot of people. I started to discuss with a US researcher on this topic, and he helped me a lot to the initial start, and we discussed some ideas. And I saw that, I mean, in the OSINT world, you can have a lot of ideas trying to, I mean, for example, for the relation graph, this is just awesome to spend time on this, because you have a lot of different possibilities. You can, for example, you can draw the relation between accounts, but you can draw the relation between tweets. You can draw the relation between emoji, for example. You can mix everything, trying to show all the retweet, all the quote with comments, this kind of thing. So you can really find a lot of things and show different things. So this is what I like in OSINT.
So I have a question for you. So hearing you talk about what you do makes me think of that you almost immediately do things on scale, or at least you grab vast amounts of data and you try to visualize it and then to make sense of it by analyzing it, which means you have to be able to, first of all, grab all the information, then parse the information, and then make sense of it. Looking at your background, and you are in reverse engineering malware, mobile applications, and mobile devices are becoming more and more huge hard drives in essence, because they contain a lot of information. How does that correlate for you to or basically how does it blend into open source intelligence? Because in essence, malware or mobile applications or mobile devices are closed devices, which are not entirely open source intelligence. How do you mix those worlds?
As you said, the scale point is very interesting, because what I saw when I started to do this kind of analysis is people trying to draw conclusion on, okay, I capture like 10,000 of tweets, and I can say this is my super conclusion. And I was like, okay, this is super stupid, because you capture only a small part of what people really did, and it doesn't mean anything. You can, if I can draw I can say I can make the conclusion of my choice with your data set. This is not how things is going. So when you analyze the dynamic on social networks, you are forced to capture on a large scale, or otherwise you are not doing it correctly. Regarding the transition between reverse engineering in general and OSINT, I mean, both are quite correlated, because when you, this is what you are doing too with osintcurious, we always try to find a new way to get data and to be close to the new platform, to the new service, and we want to get the data in order to analyze it. And this is why I created my new company, PredictaLab, because I realized that a lot of researchers, a lot of OSINT lovers doesn't have enough data to do their work, basically. And the first point is really to be able to get the data in order to analyze it, and to have all the data. And today, I'm really not happy with the current situation, because we don't have a good relation with platforms in general. Facebook, Instagram, and the other decided to give that only the data they want to the universities in general. And if you are an independent researcher, if you are working on disinformation and other topics, you will have nothing. So this is why I created my company, and I'm trying to get the data where I can have it. So this is where reverse engineering is very useful, because I mean, if you reverse snapshot, for example, on Android, you will have some endpoint. If you reverse it on iOS, you will have other endpoint, and this is the same thing for a lot of stuff. And you can have a lot of information, and you can automate everything. And this is another point of we can do better on this point. I think in the OSINT world in general, we all have small tips in order to get, for example, the Instagram followers, trying to scroll down and get everything copy paste and this kind of thing, which is very useful when you don't have any other methods. But we need to have something automatic, and this is what I developed, trying to have an API in order to just say, okay, I want the followers of this username, give me everything. It takes 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I don't really care, but it's quite fast. And after that, you have everything in JSON and whatever format you want. So this is what I'm trying to do, and I think this is we need this kind of tool right now to be better at OSINT.
So go ahead, Laurent. Go ahead.
Yes. So just to clarify for our listeners. So first of all, make sure to check out Baptiste's new company, and you can follow them on Twitter. So that's twitter.com/predictalab_off. So predictor with a C and off with 2 Fs. So just to clarify, so you found so you say the problem is that the data that is provided by these big social platforms is not independent. And because there's a need to, of course, do independent research, so you created this company to go out and collect the data, so you can make it available through APIs.
Yep, this is our first product, and based on that, we are able to build a lot of product, because if you are able to get the data from Instagram or Facebook on specific thing, I mean, we are not here to monitor everyone. This is not our goal. Yeah. We want to do our work, and for example, if we are in a specific case and we are investigating investigating something, we want to have our answers. And this is why I created this product. And based on that, this is super useful. You can find a lot of stuff and be very creative on the product you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing.
So, listening to at your story, and you basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are grabbing mobile applications mostly, you are dissecting them to long story short, and to see where you can find pivot points that you can leverage to maybe automate stuff that will generate information, or you're looking at the network traffic and see what you can find there to collect the information. Is this coming forward from the landscape moving more and more away from desktop laptops towards mobile applications only, which are in essence closed ecosystems again?
We have, to be honest, we have everything. We are also doing the same thing on website too. So it's just specific to mobile application, because I mean, we don't really care if you are using a web application or mobile application, which is Android or iOS. At the end, you just using a software which is using some APIs, and we want to understand how the APIs exposed by this specific service are working, and trying to replicate how they behave in order to get the data we want to have. So this is what we are doing, and I mean, it's working fine. If you are trying to get all the data of the world, you will be see very quickly. But this is not what we are trying to do. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know the importance, because I know for myself from several use cases, especially for instance, when I was in law enforcement, we had to examine the mobile application of a drone vendor, and we looked at the Android version versus the iOS version, where the Android version shared little user information, but the iOS version gave us full name and email address in the underneath lying code. So this is why I think what your point just is, if you look at both platforms or several platforms, you can basically enrich one tool. Well, for instance, we talked about Snapchat just now, where Snapchat in essence only lives on a mobile device. Yeah, you have Snapchat Maps, but the entire platform is mobile only. So you need to be able to pull the information from the mobile application by looking at either the code or the traffic itself. What are for you, let's say, not everybody of our listeners is as tech savvy as you are, and probably I'm not as tech savvy as you are as well, because by hearing you talk, you are probably a hardcore coder and at least an analyst of code. If you could give our listeners who are starting out in those the tip how to pull information in an automated way quickly, where would you think that they should start?
I think what you suggest in your different podcast and live you are doing is very good. I mean, the Chrome DevTools is clearly the best way to start to understand what is happening, and it give a hint or how things are working, especially if you open the network tab, trying to do some actions. But you also have to understand some security concept, which is the attack surface, for example. When you try to hack something, you want to understand what you are trying to hack, what are the different features available to the users, and what are the possible attack points you have. And typically, this is what we are doing too at PredictLab, saying, for example, okay, for Instagram, I want the list of followers for one username, or I can do that. I have a specific goal, and I mean, I have different way to have the followers list on the website, on the mobile application, on the Android application. I will try to do all the use cases in order to get the list of followers, and then I will see what I can exploit. So this is the same concept. And for people just entering into the game. It's more a mindset, just not to use tools. I mean, a lot of people are doing a lot of very cool tools, and you should use it. But also, it's super important to understand how the tools are working, and you will learn a lot of things by trying to do your own tools. Maybe at the end, your tool will be crappy, it will not work, but you don't really care. You do something on during the when you created your tools, you understand a lot of things, and you will ask yourself some question. And I think this is a path of a hacker, basically just asking question and saying, okay, oh this thing is working, why this code is here, on this kind of thing.
Yeah, true. And that brings us to another point that I was wondering about. How do you go about analyzing data? And especially when you have vast amounts of data, do you also explore different methodologies? Because some people might get very overwhelmed very fast if they have a huge, especially when it comes to disinformation and misinformation campaigns. You suddenly have to untangle a huge web. And on top of it, although now I bring an extra element to it, there are many biases to specific threat actors, usually, for example, countries, like you said before. And it's very easy to say, wow, I have this huge amount of information I need to comb through. And an easy hypothesis is to, for example, think that a nation state is behind that. But how do you go about analyzing this data?
This is a very good question, and I'm always trying to simplify things when I'm working on a big amount of data. You cannot answer everything. It's not possible. You will have millions of tweets, of Facebook posts, of TikTok videos, or this kind of thing. A lot of things are happening at the same time, and you cannot be everywhere. So you have to answer to one specific question. Typically, I wrote an article last year regarding a QAnon conspiracy theory about Biden is a pedophile. So I wanted to understand who were spreading this theory, and I wanted to have an image of the most famous people on TikTok trying to spread this theory during the US election. And so what I did, I really focused on this question, and I was like, okay, I want to have all the videos with these specific hashtags, but this hashtag was blacklisted by TikTok. So I needed a way to get all these videos by another way. So same thing when I worked on, for example, some Indian disinformation campaign on Twitter. Once I remembered I had a big amount of data, and I just tried to find the spam account. I wanted to know which account were the most active in this particular campaign, and why Twitter didn't suspend this kind of account. And when you focus on this kind of thing, you will develop some new tool and some new KPI. For example, for this story, I created an indicator called tweet speed, something like this. And it was quite funny because with this indicator, I was able to say, okay, this account is tweeting like 100, 200 of tweets per day during 10 years. It was something very crazy. And when you put everything in perspective and trying to step up, you will see a new things. Obviously, you cannot answer everything. Doing attribution is really complicated in security in general. I think this is the same thing in OSINT, but for this kind of campaign, you have to you have to stay neutral, and this is super complicated, especially when it's not your country, when it's not your culture. I worked a lot on Indian stuff in general, mobile application, website. I discussed a lot of Indian governmental officials of this kind of thing, and this is not my culture at all. And I don't pretend to understand their culture, their notion of privacy, their notion of security. And I mean, I am a European, and you cannot arrive like this and say, okay, guys, you are doing wrong. This is not like this. And I think with OSINT, this is the same thing when you analyze this information. You have to understand what is behind, and maybe there is something specific happening in this part of the world at this moment. And so you have to do some observation, say, okay, this is happening like this. I can see that based on facts. And after that, the best way is to discuss with people related to this kind of event with this culture, and maybe you will have some insight. And this is why OSINT is complicated, because this is not just a technical thing. You have to understand a lot of things, political, cultural, and a lot of things.
But you also seem to keep your personal opinions out of it in your analysis, which I think we should point out at this point, because I have seen many people trying to enter the OSINT sphere, let's say, and they do analysis and they start their hypothesis based on a personal opinion. And you seem to keep this out and try to be as objective as possible and say, look, I know that I don't understand everything about their culture or whatever the environment. So I will stick on the facts and what I see in front of my eyes as facts, and I will rely the rest of my investigation on that.
Yeah, and I think it's super important, especially in our current age, because you can hear a lot of different things, a lot of different opinions, and I'm just a technical guy based in France and trying to understand what is happening in the world. That's all. And I started as an unknown guy, and I did some crazy things since. So. And you have to stay really humble on what you are doing, and just say, okay, I can see that. I think it's because of that, but that's all. And I'm not here to judge people, and I don't have the authority. Especially you, Nico, you told about your law enforcement background. I'm discussing sometimes with law enforcement in different countries, and I'm trying to helping, but I don't have the authority to do their work, and I'm not doing their work at all. So if I can help help them to do their work, fine, I will do it, but I will not judge the guy, and I will not judge the case, because this is a work and this is not my work. So
yeah, and it's also all about being your own devil's advocate, which you basically pointed out. You're saying, hey, I'm noticing, I'm finding on a technical perspective things that are not supposed to be there, or that point out a certain answer to my initial research question. But now I need to be my own devil's advocate and, let's say, reach out to people in certain countries who know more about that culture, and that can really help me understand and come to a sound analysis and say, hey, based upon these technical facts, we found these things. And then talking to, let's say, field experts about that culture, we can combine those both worlds and then come to a sound, or at least let's say a moderate confidence level conclusion.
Yeah. and I have a story. I never said it publicly, so it will be a start. I was at a hacker conference. It was more a vendor conference in France last year, and I managed So you have a badge. You have it was a bracelet, and when you go to a stand, the vendor is badging you in order to get your information and send you a lot.
NFC badge kind of thing.
NFC badge, and so I was invited by a vendor in order to do a conference, and I saw the phone used in order to badge the NFC badge. So I played with it, and it was an Android phone. And after, 2 minutes, I managed to get information about everyone. So I was able to see all the emails of all the participants. It was like 500 of persons, so a lot of things. So I contacted the conference organizer, trying to say, okay, guys, you have a big issue, and I can find the emails of all the participants of this year, but also last year's, and the previous 2 years. So this is a big issue, and everything is open. You have all the personal information of people available for everyone, and you were able to say, okay, my the concurrent company is at badge like 10 people. I have more people than I badge more people than them, this kind of thing. So and I didn't make the write-up on this story because we are like all the countries, we have COVID. Physical event didn't happen for a lot of time, and a lot of workers working in this industry are unemployment at this moment, and they have a lot of financial issue. And you are like, okay, I found a big security issue. They have a legal obligation to alert everyone. They didn't do it. But at the same time, if I'm saying something with my public, with my public impact in this sector, they will have a lot of trouble. So you have sometimes to balance everything and say, okay, this is a problem in terms of privacy, but do I have to alert everyone? I don't know. You are dealing
That's
with...
the problem with responsible disclosure in general, right?
Yeah.
So because in general, responsible disclosure is you find a vulnerability or you find some privacy issues, in essence, at a company or for instance, at a badge. You discover it, you notify the company and say, hey, there's something wrong. You give them basically time to act upon it because they need to do it by law in most countries. Yeah, but there is a limit to it because sometimes they will just not act, and then you can always go public, in essence, right?
Yeah. And this is, in OSINT, you have the same kind of thing sometimes, because when you play with application, with web application, you can find some security issues, some privacy issues. And what are you doing in this kind of situation? If you, for example, if you are able to find the phone number attached to a Facebook account, what you are doing, this is a privacy issue. It was a real issue happening very recently. And a lot of people exploited and created a large database of people. But if you know this issue, what are you doing with that? Because,
But this is very interesting, because I can see, like, from your point of view, I mean, you're also in the OSINT community. You have done a lot of work, but also from your background as a security researcher, like this, at the bottom of it, or at the heart of it, I can see this curiosity again. So you're interested, you got a badge and you're interested, like, let's see what I can find. And then you found all those email addresses. The same is for us, we find something. Like the work that I did as well, like looking at bad people online, I also found something very interesting that I wanted to share as well. Share because I wanted to disclose the methodology of how I found it, because I know that at this time, a lot of people are looking exactly at these people. But then again, it's this disclosure, and if I give it away, so this is my problem most of the times, that I'm not doing anything then in the end. And I just share it with a closed circle, whereas I could share it with a bunch of people. So what is your advice in general, having found so many vulnerabilities? Like what would you recommend?
It's do your best and be nice with people. This is my general advice. If you find an issue, a vulnerability, a privacy issue, or a security issue, don't send an email to the guy saying, "Oh, you are just you are doing your job wrongly. This is a basic mistake. You are just a beginner." It's not working like that. Just be nice with people and say, "Okay, I'm sorry, I found something. I wanted to alert you, and because I care about the privacy of you and the security of your users, and you should really fix it." And if it's not working, then you can escalate and use the media, the impact I have on my account. For example, I have the chance to have a lot of followers and to have a lot of journalists watching my feed. So it's helping a lot for this kind of situation. But when you have this kind of thing, just try to be nice. Call them, send an email, try to alert them first, try to give them a chance to fix it. And in general, I mean, I did a lot of responsible disclosure, and in general, everything is quite okay. People are very nice because you will have technical people in front of you, and they are working on their product. They want to understand what is the issue. I mean, they did a mistake and they want to understand, and they care about their product, their company, and they want to have everything fixed. So don't be
Don't ever
be
say
nice.
don't ever say your baby is ugly. Just say, hey, you have a pretty baby, but you need to comb his hair a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, Segner, do you want to go? I think you have a question.
Yeah, something completely different. Looking at social media, everything is constantly changing, and it really takes a lot of time to keep up with things. But also web applications and mobile applications, it's getting more and more secure. End-to-end encryption for chat apps is really, well, it's almost the norm nowadays. But also things like certificate pinning can make inspecting traffic a little bit more difficult, but also obfuscating code, so making it really difficult to read for you as a researcher. Does it create extra challenges? Do you think it's going to be even more difficult to find new things in applications, or is it just a cat and mouse game, just like an OSINT that keeps on going on?
Yeah, as you said, it's like a cat and mouse game. It's not an easy task for sure, and sometimes some certificate binding are very difficult to bypass. I'm thinking, for example, at Snapchat, which is not the most easier to bypass, but when you have obfuscated code, you can understand what is happening. And I mean, if you spend hours on the code, and it just I'm really not objective on that, because I'm used to this kind of code. And in general, I like to do security audit on the application itself. I don't like to have the source code. I'm a little bit different, because people really like to have the source code and play with it. And my approach is more to be really a hacker from the outside. I want to be the attacker on pawn the application from the outside, and you can be used to obfuscated code. Obviously, it's not easy, but at the end of the day, you have some hard limits that you cannot change. It's still right now. This is Kotlin for Android. It's Swift for iOS. When you reverse iOS, you will have you will have assembly language. So I mean, if you are used to that, you will find your thing, and you are very low in the machine. So whatever the language on top, you don't really care, because if you know what is happening in assembly language, you will understand what is happening.
So you're let me see if I understand this, because this is definitely not my world. You are looking at the root of the code. So basically, when you look at it as a tree, the application itself, it's the leaves and the flowers. Then you have the stem, and then you have the root. And the assembly code, for instance, that's the root. That's how the application is built up.
Sort of, yes. So you have the developer, so the user will use your application. He will use some feature inside your application, play with the user interface, and this kind of thing. Then you have the developer who is developing your application. Depending of the platform, you will use some Node.js, some JavaScript frameworks, Node.js, Angular, this kind of thing. Or he will use Kotlin for Android, or he will use Swift for iOS. Then, if you try, then this language, it's not understand. The machine, the computer, or the phone cannot understand Kotlin like this. You need to translate it with something 0 and 1, basically. Yeah. And you can lower. You have a layer above that, which is just assembly language, where you have some instruction on saying, okay, I'm playing with the register of the machine and doing some operation. But for example, for Android, you are a little bit higher than that, and you can have almost the same code than the developer when you reverse the application.
Interesting. So much to learn again for me. New worlds. So talking about so much to learn, that's a question we normally close off oftenly with our guests. What is something within the open source intelligence sphere that you want to learn, Robert?
I started to learn GeoInt a lot. GeoInt is super cool to do, to be honest. So I'm trying to be better at that. And I mean, I have a lot of things to do and to learn. So but right now I'm more focused to have a real product. I'm trying to have a nice experience with my products, with my API, and trying to help my customers. So I'm trying to learn a lot of things in my spare time. And I don't have a lot of spare time at the moment, but GeoInt is my focus right now.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. And I also just want to say a big thank you to you to come onto our show and to talk to us.
Thanks to you guys.
No, absolutely. I really enjoyed it, and I guess everyone as well. So thank you so much. And I also just want to point out to our listeners, so make sure to follow him on Twitter. His handle is @FS0C131Y. And also make sure to check out his new project, which you can also find on Twitter. That's twitter.com/predictor with a C, lab off with double F. So make sure to check that out. And thank you so much for talking to us.
And I think I will try to be more public in the next month, because I was a little bit quiet on social network at this moment, which is not very in my habits. But I will be more public, and I will really try to contribute a lot for the OSINT community, because I really want to do that. And I will write a lot of blog posts trying and give some data also to other researchers.
Oh, wow.
I will probably start with a closed circle, I guess, because I don't want to have everything public, but I really want to give more power to the community and give at least the data and let them do their work correctly. So
I'm hearing a guest blog for osintcurious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Right. Thank you so much. And thanks again for joining us. And all right.
Then we will be keeping
an eye
for updates. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.